Yo, what's going on, fam out there? It's your boy Tahir Johnson, and we're back with another episode of the Cannabis Diversity Report. This week, I have my homegirl from Maryland, Venushki Hemachandra. Venus, how you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me to here. I'm excited to be on.
Of course, it's definitely so dope to have you. Definitely good to have somebody from home, especially get to tell your, to get to tell your story because you're somebody dope, is doing
Oh,
a lot of cool things.
thank you. Absolutely. I think, oh my God, just it's been a wild ride since we got started. I just want to say, we got our start in Canada, actually. And back in, I want to say, 2013. So it's been, crazy throughout the years. Like, it's been like 8 years now. Can't even believe it, but we're here. Just recently, we were able to get our pre-approvals for a grower and processor here in Maryland. So really, really pumped for that. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy, and I'm excited for
Yeah.
what's to come.
First, tell everybody the name of the name of your company. Tell everybody, what you do now, and what you're doing.
Yeah, so I come from herbiculture. Herbiculture is one of the very few women and minority-owned dispensaries in Maryland. Like I said, we just recently got our pre-approval for the grower and the processing operations here in Maryland. So that's something we're actively working on right now. And we're really excited to just, come out to the market with the experience that we have at the retail level because we got to really interact. Personally, I was bud tending at our own dispensary. Really had the opportunity to meet patients, speak to them, and see what's working and what's not, and to really come to the market with lines of products that make sense, that work, and are affordable. I'm a patient myself. I unfortunately about 2 years ago got my face bit by this large Rottweiler, got all sorts of nerve pain, had to get my lip reconstructed. So I know cannabis has been, oh my God, a saving grace for me. So I'm excited for what we can do with this, these licenses, and hopefully do something good for the patients here in Maryland.
Right, absolutely. And one of the things that's really dope is so for anybody that knows about Maryland's recent process. In 2019, there were applications for 10 processor licenses and 4 cultivation licenses.
Mm-hmm.
Venus and her team at Herbiculture were the only people to win both of those licenses. So just to say it shortly, she's a beast.
Oh.
And now because you had the dispensary, this makes you vertically integrated.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about what that process was like, and how and like the value of being vertically integrated in the supply chain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Generally, we don't really come from a very resource heavy background. So, when we got started in this whole industry, like I said, we got started in Canada in, 2013. It was my sister, my dad, and I. So we were the ones who actually, did the application. So even in this round, we are a small team. We, rolled up our sleeves. We got to work, did the applications ourselves. We know what it is being in the industry, what it's like in the market, what the regulations are like. So we put all of that experience and that knowledge into this application process. So it was a very, very difficult process to go through. It took close to now, I want to say like 2 years, right? It's like one whole year we were just waiting to hear back, whether we were getting the pre-approvals. We were ranked like a year ago. So, it's nice to see that things are finally moving along. And, in terms of being vertically integrated, but like I said, I feel like the biggest advantage that we have is that, we're coming in from being in that retail space and then going into the manufacturing because we had, that experience with and interactions with. Sorry about that. Really being able to, give the patients what they want, like knowing exactly what they're looking for, making sure our products are quality, are affordable, are some of the really big key things that we're keeping in mind when we're looking to come out to market with our products.
Right. And like you said, you got started in 2013 in Canada. That's like really early cannabis, right? Talk about what was that experience like? How is Canada different than the US? And tell the story about how did you actually get started?
Yeah, so it was I want to say it all started with an earthquake, but that's going very, very far back. But essentially, just the quick version of the story is that our dad has been a serial entrepreneur, and we've kind of been in that and grown up in that kind of environment. And I remember this day pretty vividly. Dad had come home and he was like, we have to go to Ottawa. So we are in Toronto. Ottawa is about a 6-hour drive from us. And the next day morning, we would get in the car, go to Ottawa. And coming back, he was telling us, hey, you know, that the convention that I just went to was actually an info session from Health Canada, looking to change up the system in Canada and how they do things. So they were moving to this licensed producer type system. So he was saying, you know, this is something that he wants to try. And then he asked my sister and I to say like, hey, let's do this together and see what we can do. So that's how we got into it. I remember that day very, very clearly. We were like, what? This is what we're going to do now? It was insane. We had zero cannabis experience. I had just graduated from college. My sister was still in college. But literally the next day, we rolled up our sleeves, got to work, speaking to a lot of people, really learning about what this is. And again, like did the whole thing ourselves. So that's really how we got into it. And since then, it's just kind of been a crazy ride. But really the difference is in US and Canada, I feel like, is that even though Canada did move to, you know, legalization faster, I think there's still so many restrictions. There's still a lot of barriers, even for the independent operators, you know, just to even get banking. So that's still something that Canada needs to work on. I think generally in the States, it's been a more open conversation. I can get support. I can go, I know that, you know, I know all these other dispensary owners that's around me. And yes, we are competing, but I can go to them and I can go for them for support. That's something that's not necessarily there in Canada. I think it's getting there now, but it's just certainly very different. And the conversation is much, much more open in the States. And I really like how the inclusivity part of it plays into it. So yeah, it's certainly two different environments.
Right. And that's pretty crazy. So you pretty much came like straight from college, like straight to the leagues,
yeah.
A professional career. What did you major in?
I did global management, which is kind of like international business. So, you know, knowing like the Incoterms, trading, all of that stuff. But business has been such a passion for me. I'm a total geek when it comes to like board games and computers. So, you know, I love strategy, and I always feel like, you know, that's what business is to just kind of go out there, do your own thing. And it's never the same thing every day. It's always something different. So I think it's just like almost made sense to go into it. It's new. It's almost like a dream for a business student to be like, oh my God, there's a new industry coming online, to try and be part of that. It's still exciting. Like to me, it's a high that, you know, no pun intended, I guess. And to try and to get into it and like do what we do daily, it's such a fulfilling place to be in, because you know at the end of the day that, you know, we are helping patients. I'm a patient myself, and I know how much this is helping me. And it's just, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, honestly.
Right. And I know that you're also active in the Dispensary Association there in Maryland. So talk a little bit about, you know, Maryland's cannabis market, and, you know, what are some of the things that you're doing with the association?
Absolutely. I think Maryland has a very unique market. It has, right now there's about 102 approved, pre-approved at least dispensaries. There's like about 90 some odd dispensaries open right now, but only a handful of growers and processors. So there has been, you know, the prices have, you know, stayed pretty steady up there, and the demand is sky high, but the supply isn't there as we'd like to see it. So, you know, it's nice, and I'm happy to see that there are additional licenses being given out, because patients need their medicine. So I'm excited to, like I said, have this new licensees coming on board. In Maryland generally, what I really love about the patient base right now that we have is that they are very much educated. The requirements, this very stringent requirements in Maryland for labeling and testing, I love, because it really helps patients cater to their needs by looking at what terpenes work for you, you know, what cannabinoids work for you. Even if the same strain is not there, you can look at the the terpene profile, find something that is similar, that works for you. So having that, I think, is such a key part of this program here in Maryland. And I think, from how we got started to where we are now, there has been significant improvement. And I think especially you got to give it up to the MMCC as hard as it is, that, they've taken the right steps. They're now listening much more to the operators in the industry to try and understand all the difficulties that we go through, all the challenges that we go through, and then to try and help us succeed and make sure that patients are getting, the best that they can. I know it's a growing space, but I think they've taken the right steps to get us where we got to be.
Right. And of course, Maryland has medical, and, we're starting to see nearby states will almost legalize adult, like New Jersey. And I know there's a couple bills floating around for Maryland to legalize adult use. Do you think that that's something that will happen soon? And, how do you think that will impact the market overall?
I hope it's something that's going to happen soon. I've seen a couple of the bills that are there, and I'm excited to see that that's still being introduced despite everything that's going on with COVID. I think it's so important to keep our eye on the ball. Like you said, our neighboring states are looking at legalization. Maryland doesn't really want to be, late to the game because we're going to be losing out a lot. Certainly, there are, we've been as part of as you mentioned, I'm very active in the MDMDA side. I had to give it up to the team at MDMDA, to actually spending time and educating some of the local delegates, taking time to speak with all the different senators to make sure that they understand what our industry is like, what is it like to be an operator, what it's like to be a patient, and to really give input into how to make this industry more successful. Even, the rollout of the adult use, to making sure that it is successful. We're looking at, the right tax rates. We're making sure there's, diversity and social equity issues are tackled. So those are definitely things that we're keeping an eye out on. Like you mentioned here, we're part of, as part of the MDMDA's diversity and inclusion initiative. So I chair that, and we have essentially 4 different tenets that we try to kind of organize our goals around to make sure that we're tackling diversity and inclusion at different levels. So the program is called DREAM, which I really, really love. And it essentially stands for Diversity and Inclusion Initiative for Better Relief, Employment, Action, and Management. So under the action tenet is kind of where we look at the different, how we can make change at the legislative level. So adult use has been such a huge conversation, and making sure that we are inclusive of everybody, that we're not, just setting aside micro license for the diversity applicants, really making sure that we have an opportunity to partake in it, so that not just the big guys are coming in and sweeping up all the licenses, right? So these are things that we're actively keeping an eye out on, making sure that even if you have a cannabis conviction, because there's so much communities that are disproportionately affected, that those guys have a seat at the table, can actually partake in this industry. That was something that we had to fight for initially in Maryland. So these are things that we're definitely keeping an eye out on and making sure that we're moving forward in the right way.
That's so dope.
Yeah.
And what for you as somebody, like you said, that's done applications yourself, I know that there's a lot of people that have dreams that want to try to get in the industry and own a dispensary or cultivation or manufacturing. What type of advice do you have for people that that want to try? Like where should they start?
Absolutely. I think the first thing is, don't be scared to do it. I know it can be intimidating, especially when you go take a look at all the regulations, like what's going on. There's so many things going on. I think the first step is for you to decide to do it, to take part in this industry that's up and coming. There are lots of people that you can go up to and talk to who are willing to give advice. So just to give you an example, we couldn't afford lawyers when we were starting out. So we had to sit down and take a look at what the regulations look like, so we could better understand what the state is asking us to do. And when you open up those regulations, it's very, very intimidating. It's like, what is this? It's like, it's a wall of text. Trying to get through it is hard. But honestly, I think it's just sitting down and not being intimidated, take a look at it and see what you can do. There are people out there who's willing to help. I've been so fortunate to have met so many amazing people just through this industry that are willing to help and talk to you and mentor you. So those people are out there, and I just say, you know, take that first step, have that conversation, and don't be scared to get started. You don't need a lot of cash. You don't need a lot of resources to get started, because we did that without having any of that. It's just, you know, hard work and dedication, honestly.
Yep, definitely is. And you know, what type of advice do you have for, you know, women that want to be, you know, CEOs in general? What's it like, especially being a minority women CEOs leading such a dope company?
Mm-hmm. Thank you for asking that question, because I think a lot of the times there's I feel like a little bit of less of an understanding of the struggles that women go through. Just to give you an example, when we started out, and, you know, like I said, we didn't have the capital we needed to start our initial project. So we would go out and speak to people, and they would look at us and they're like, who are you? You know, how did you do this? Oh, you guys got lucky, just because of you know, how we look. And, you know, I remember like trying to have conversations with people, but if there's a male next to me, immediately they're speaking to the guy in the room and not me. And that's, it's almost sad, and it's common. But I feel like things have taken a turn in a good way, where people are now more accepting. And I think in cannabis alone, there's a lot more women out there, and I love seeing that. There is a lot of support for women, and supporting like women supporting each other. There's so many organizations that do that. I myself luckily have access to, again, other females in the industry, which I'm really happy with, to you know, kind of have that safe space to talk about what can I be doing better. And I think you had another guest on your podcast who spoke really greatly about how you know, how important it is to have females in this industry and make it a normal thing, that, you know, we are just as good and are here and are capable. And then to just kind of get rid of that stigma that, you know, that we're not as good as, you know, anybody else. So, yeah.
No, we absolutely have to, because, you know, I would say, you know, what you've done is impressive. You know, like you said, doing it yourself, like grinding. You know, like I said, it's just really dope.
Thank you.
And so, like, with the dispensary, what's it like running a dispensary?
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. So this is the first retail operations that we've done, and there was a lot of the first bit of it was a lot of learning, and then understanding how we could you know, really serve our patients. I think one of the big things to keep in mind generally as a dispensary is to look at your reviews and look at your feedback. A lot of the times it's so difficult, and I've seen other operators as well, is to get, you know, as a operator, you know, you're putting your all out there. It's hard work. But, you know, when somebody has something not so nice to say about, you know, maybe, you know, their experience, it's always hard. But I think the biggest thing is to really listen to your customer base, you know, in this case, our patients, to see what's not working for them. If they have you know, something to say to you, it really is because their experience just, you know, either wasn't great or it was great, and so they're giving you good feedback, or it wasn't, and they're telling you how you can fix your operation. So we ourselves have done multiple changes in our operations and how we do things to cater to our patients, to make sure that we're giving them what they want, making sure that, you know, for instance, like cutting down wait times, making sure we have better rewards, things like that. We're always out there listening and seeing what we can do better as a dispensary. And it really is, like I said, even though we are competing as dispensaries, there's always a community in Maryland. You know, I know every single one of the owners, even just, you know, the stores that are like 10 minutes down the road from us. And they're all amazing people that, again, like even with the Dream Initiative, I work with, you know, one of the dispensary owners that are really, really close to me. And it's exciting. And I know that the support is there, despite the fact that we are competing with each other.
Right. And what has been some of the impacts of COVID? How do you have to, you know, pivot your business, you know, because of the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, it's been a year to say the least. Oh my goodness. There has been so many different changes. I think what's really good to see is that our regulator has been super supportive, which is very, very nice. It's not something that you hear often. I think they gave us guidance from the very beginning, and our patients have been very patient with the changes that have been coming in. I can't be thankful enough to the people that I remember when we were trying to switch operations from being in store to curbside only. There were a lot of hiccups because we had to switch. We had to figure out how to actually do it, train our staff. And they were really understanding. Sometimes there were times where they had to wait an hour before they even got their medicine, but they were understanding. And to me, and that is just speaks volume of how much they support their local shops, and it's just nice to know that support is there. But it's been rough. We've had to adjust multiple in different ways. It's always scary being out there in a pandemic as an essential worker. So making sure that our staff has the PPE that they need, making sure we're sanitizing, making sure all those procedures are being followed to a T has been key, because there have been certain dispensaries that had to close down because of the pandemic, and that's not something that we want to do. So we want to make sure that we are very careful and we're keeping everybody's safety in mind.
Right, definitely important to keep everybody safe, like you said, the patients and the staff.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, as somebody that's had to like bootstrap and really build the companies yourself, what would you share from your experience about having to raise capital? How do you do that and really maintain ownership of your business? I think that's something really important, especially for minorities in the industry.
That is such a good question. So it is so difficult, especially I think, like you mentioned, getting access to capital, especially in this industry. That's something that we've been talking a lot about, especially with, the regulators, because, the biggest thing that I personally think could help us is having access to financial institutions and them, being able to lend to us. So one of the conversations that's happening in Maryland right now is to potentially use the license as collateral to be able to get loans, operating loans, for folks like us who doesn't have the whole amount of capital that we would need to get this operation off the ground. So those are some of the key points that I think Maryland is looking at right now, which I'm very happy about. But it is difficult. One of the things that end up happening is a lot of the bigger players will come and say, hey, no, if you want the capital, you have to give up control. And that's not, that's not ideal. And that's not something we want to do. And in the loan front, what we're seeing is, sometimes like interest rates upwards of 20%. I've heard up to like 30%. And, so it's a difficult game to be in. But I think we've been lucky in certain instances where we've had folks that are willing to support us and seeing, what we can do. It really is just, it's a hard road ultimately when it comes to capital. But I think that there is light at the end of the tunnel, because we are looking at that changing, and that we actually have been speaking to our local bank recently about, having access to loans like that. And even, like I said, with MMCC now looking at potentially allowing the license to be collateralized, it's so key. One of the interesting things also that we're looking at even with adult use is having, a pool of capital for, disadvantaged applicants that can use that to essentially help themselves, like low interest loans, things like that. I think there's some other states that do that. I think those are some programs that Maryland should look at to try and help this industry. But I think there's some movement in that, and I'm happy to see that's happening.
Right. Yeah. And then the other cool thing is that safe banking, could potentially move along now that we have Democrats on, both the House and the Senate and in the White House. So, there's so much interesting legislation like out there. What do you think about, federal legalization? Will we see it like Canada?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an interesting question. I think there's certainly big differences between how Canada is and how US is. Canada is, I think US particularly has a strong presence when it comes to like states alone and how states want to regulate versus how Canada is and how the provinces there are. I think in terms of decriminalization, I think there is absolutely a strong path. I think even with legalization, at least what I've been hearing is that there is a strong sense of allowing the states to kind of, do their own thing, which is what they're doing now anyway. So I think that's interesting. In terms of opening up the market in the next 2 years, I personally don't see that happening, just given how things are structured at state levels. And I know that states are looking to get, tax revenue so that they can improve their infrastructure and things like that, especially with this pandemic. So not something I personally see happening, at least interstate commerce, like almost immediately, but certainly is in the next 3 to 5 years. This whole market has been such a roller coaster ride, I feel like, from the day we started to where we are now, there has been so many changes. So yeah, we'll see. I'm excited. It's always interesting in this industry.
Yep.
But I hope, like you said, though, with the cannabis banking opening up, oh my goodness, that would just open it up for this industry so much more. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Yep. And what would you say is the single biggest thing that you wish you would have known when you got started that you know now?
280E.
I hear that
280E. It's like, a lot of people that we talk to, they're like, what is that? That even when we got into, because like in Canada, taxes it's taxed as a, regular old business. Whereas when I learned about 280, I was like, what is that? How is that fair? I know just luckily, actually, 280 is a conversation that we're having even now, given this pandemic. So it makes me happy to see that there are people fighting for the little guy. I feel like 280E has such a big impact on dispensaries, especially because there's no way for us to write off our expenses. Our job is to sell, and we can, write off any expenses that allow us to sell cannabis. So it's been a rough ride. Bottom lines are hard. I know generally what happens in the industry is people take a look at, the top line and they're like, oh, okay, cool, they're doing well. But really, when it's a small operator, especially if you're just an independent dispensary, it's very, very difficult to be able to, making sure that you're providing, good benefits to your employees, making sure that they're safe, they have access to PPE, they have access to bonuses, plus being able to procure supply. It's very expensive, and even just to bank, just to give you an idea, banking alone, it takes about, for us, roughly about $30,000 a year just to try and bank, which is ridiculous. So, as a small operator, it's hard, and I'm happy to see Maryland taking steps to try and get rid of 280E, I hope. I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year, but there are bills that are out there. We've certainly, spoken in support of that, but we'll see. But yeah, that's been the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I bet, because I swear I was just talking to another friend yesterday that has a dispensary, and she said the same thing. So are you thinking you did well, and at the end of the year, it's like, oh my gosh, they won.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, exactly.
That exactly. Is. No, but Venus, it was definitely so dope rapping with you. What were some of the, is there anything cool, or anything, what's coming next from Herbiculture that people should be looking out for, and let everybody know where they can find you?
Absolutely. So you can always find us at our website, www.herbiculture.com. So what we're really excited about and what we're working on right now is to try and, make sure that we have the right partners and the right product lines and the right people in our team to make sure that we are succeeding and we are able to come out with products that are, catered to the patients here in Maryland. And really that's what it is. I think one of the really exciting things for us is to be forefront in this industry in diversity, making sure that we become an example when it comes to diversity and inclusion, giving our employees, like we do now at our dispensary, opportunities to grow within our company, folks that had convictions, making sure that they have opportunities to still partake in this industry, because we've done that for our employees right now, and I'm excited to do that and create a more diverse industry here in Maryland through our grow and processor. So that's something that I'm really excited about. I'm hoping that we are able to be in the heart of Baltimore when it comes to our operations. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But always, don't be afraid to look me up on LinkedIn, message me. If you're looking for a job, always reach out to me. If you're looking for advice, reach out to me. I'm always here to chat and give advice. But that's essentially where we are. And, please do check us out.
Yep. Thank you, Venus. Maryland is definitely
you.
lucky to have you, and thank you for coming through for me. And before I get out of here, y'all, I don't know if y'all know, but NCIA has an app now. Make sure y'all hit your app store, download that. And if you're not following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that, definitely big shout out to our sponsors for that make all of this possible. For our diversity, equity, and inclusion program, over 100 people in the scholarship program, and big thanks to Copper State Farms, law offices of Omar Figueroa, and Tahoe Wellness, who are this month's sponsors. Venus, I'll talk to you soon, homie.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.